I can see that there's a lot of people joining at the moment. We'll wait maybe 1 minute before we get started, and then we'll start with the presentation. Yeah, feel free to greet your fellow students in the chat, maybe write where you're from, what you're going to study, if you want. Because you're all future, not classmates maybe, but potentially. Okay, I think a majority of the persons attending have joined. So let's get started. Hi, everyone, and warm welcome to today's pre-departure webinar for newly admitted Uppsala University students. My name is Cecilia. I work at the Division for Internationalization. I work with international student recruitment in the applicant support team, or with applicant support. And I will be hosting today's webinar. And with me, I have 2 current students and a former student. We have Daniel. Maybe just a wave, Daniel. Hi. We have Mustaqim. Hi. And we have Arindam, who is former student, current PhD student. And we are going to talk about some practicalities, and we're going to do a Q&A session. So I think if you have questions from the start, you can write them in the Q&A box, but I think many of them will be answered during the presentation. So yeah, let's get started. You've been admitted. What happens now? Well, first of all, congratulations. Of course, we're really glad to have you. We're glad that you chose to apply to Uppsala University, and hope you're looking forward to your future studies. There's no need to reply to the offer of admission. We sort of assume that you want to attend Uppsala University if you've been admitted. But if you do change your mind, or for some reason decide not to attend the program that you've been admitted to, then we ask you to decline the offer of admission through your university admissions account, because that way the department knows how many students they'll be actually receiving, and they can maybe admit a student from the waiting list instead. So we ask you to decline if you won't be attending. All right, so let's just rip off the Band-Aid. COVID-19. There is a pandemic going on still. We understand that there is much worry, and you're feeling uncertain about autumn semester maybe. Uppsala University switched to online teaching about a year ago. There have been some attempts to transition back to on-campus, but at the moment we are pretty much fully online. We hope to have switched back to on-campus teaching by autumn semester, but this is provided it is safe to do so. So it depends on the pandemic situation. But we will have a generous policy regarding reimbursement of tuition fees, because we understand that it is difficult to commit to a program at this point, considering the uncertainty and I mean, things can happen, plenty can happen before the start of semester. So we have a generous policy regarding reimbursement. However, we do not have a specific deferral policy in regards to COVID-19. We still have the same deferral requirements as we always do. So for example, you can refer to compulsory military service, family crisis, or illness when applying for a deferral. But it needs to be supported with documentation. So for example, if you want to defer your offer of admission because you have a serious illness, then you need to have documentation from a doctor or hospital or similar. And if you want to defer your offer of admission, you have to have paid the first semester's tuition fee. And what happens then is that if the deferral is granted, you apply again next year and you're automatically admitted. And yeah, that's the process essentially. If anything happens or if there are any updates or changes, we will of course let you know via email. We'll keep you updated throughout the process. So remember to check your email frequently, check your spam folder, make sure that you check the email that you provided when applying at university admissions. All right, on to more uplifting matters. Scholarships. We received many scholarship applicants this year, as most years. If you applied for a scholarship through Uppsala University, you will have received notification on whether or not your application was successful. If it was successful, you have a message on your notification of selection results. If it was unsuccessful, you received an email from our scholarship coordinators. There's probably many of you who applied for the Swedish Institute Scholarship for Global Professionals, the SISGP. The results in that application will be published 28th of April on the Swedish Institute's website. This scholarship application is completely separate from Uppsala University, and it's not something that we are involved in. So we have very little insight into the practicalities of the application and how, like, selection and what happens next. So if you have questions regarding the SI scholarship, contact the Swedish Institute, because we're not the experts on this scholarship. And there are no scholarships open for application at this time. Instead, we say that students must have their financing secured before coming to Sweden. Do not count on being able to secure a scholarship during your studies. So what happens now, you might ask? Well, in mid-April, we sent you an email with practical information. A lot of this information, or most of this information, will also be covered in today's webinar. But if you leave this webinar feeling like, I can't really remember what they said about residence permits, check the practical information PDF, because it has a lot of useful stuff. Tuition fee invoices will be sent out to our fee-paying students in actually, I think it's about a week. And the payment deadline will be about 30 days from when you receive the invoice, and the final deadline is June 1st. If you need a residence permit, so if you're a non-EU or EEA citizen, we recommend that you apply by early June at the latest. So mid to late May is usually ideal. So that's sort of the next steps in the process. Registration is something that you do in order to be able to start your semester, start your courses. So you register for a course in order to start your studies. This is usually done in person on the first day of classes, or it's done online after you've arrived in Sweden. However, all the information that you need about registration is sent out by your program coordinator, most likely later during the spring or sometimes early summer. In order to register online, you'll have to activate your student account. This is either done in person on campus, so you just go to one of our service desks on campus and say, hey, I want to activate my student account, and they help you. Or you contact our IT service desk. But this is a later process. This is done in like August. So it's not something that you need to worry about at this point. And also the information on our website can sometimes be a little confusing, but I just want to say that you don't need a personal identity number to register for courses. All international students will be able to register without it. Housing, yes. So we have a housing guarantee for our fee-paying students, and that it, of course, includes students who have a scholarship that covers their tuition fee. The housing guarantee is only for the individual student. So if you're coming with family members, you need to find housing on your own. So yeah, the rooms provided by the housing office are only intended for one person, essentially. If you get housing through the housing office, rent varies from around 3,500 to 5,500 Swedish krona per month. If you find housing on your own, it can be cheaper, it can be more expensive. It all depends on the size of the room or apartment, where it's located, those kinds of things. To apply for the guaranteed housing, you have to fill out a form, which we will send to you in mid-May. So there's an application period for that. It's usually mid-May to last of May, but we'll provide you with all the information you need about that. We'll send it to you via email. If you are an EU or EEA student, you need to find housing on your own. We will do a webinar, a separate webinar about housing on the 29th of April, where we'll talk about how to find housing on your own in Uppsala. Of course, you're welcome to join if you're a fee-paying student but coming with family members and need to find housing on your own. You're more than welcome to join the webinar. We will be joined by Sophia from the housing service provided by the student union, Studentboet, and she has all the useful knowledge on what to think about when looking for housing and what your rights are as a tenant and so on. So highly recommend you to join that. Residence permits. This is something that all non-EU EEA students need to apply for before coming to Sweden. You should apply after you've paid the first semester's tuition fee, and our tuition fee coordinators will let you know once your payment has been received and they've identified it and attached it to your name, sort of. So they'll let you know once everything is okay and you can go ahead and apply for the residence permit. When you apply, you have to show that you can support yourself during the period of time you apply for the residence permit. You need 8,568 Swedish krona per month of study to cover your cost of living. So for an entire year, that's just above 100,000 Swedish krona. You usually show this by submitting a bank statement, and the money has to be in a bank account that only you have access to. It cannot be in an account that you share with your parents or that your parents have access to. It has to be only you. And this is very important. We always have a few students who have problems with this because they submit bank statements from shared accounts. If you need further instructions on how to apply, you can check the practical information PDF that I mentioned before, or you can go to the Migration Agency's website. You'll find a link in the practical information PDF. Like I said, if you are an EU or EEA citizen, you don't need a residence permit to study in Sweden. You have the right to move within the European Union without any such permits. However, right now there's an entry ban to Sweden from when you're traveling from a non-EU or EEA country, of course, due to the pandemic. It's in effect until 31st of May, but it will most likely be extended because we've had it for quite some time. It's been extended throughout the pandemic. However, students are exempt from the entry ban, and you're also exempt if you have a Swedish residence permit. So we've not heard of any students who've had problems with the entry ban per se. It's worked out as far as I know. All right, well, insurance is important. Of course, you shouldn't come to Sweden uninsured. Our fee-paying students are given health insurance by the university. And in the category, when we talk about fee-paying, we of course include those who have been awarded a scholarship to cover the tuition fee. It's those who are liable to pay tuition fee. So you're provided health insurance by the university. It covers emergency healthcare, dental care, and some other things. You should have received an insurance certificate when you received the practical information email. If you are a non-fee paying student, you should bring your European health insurance card, which gives you access to healthcare in Sweden. I think it's on the same terms as healthcare in your home country. or the country who issued the European health insurance card. If you are a non-fee paying student but are unable to get a European health insurance card, you should contact us to discuss your options, because you should not come to Sweden without insurance. If you're staying in Sweden for longer than 12 months, that is, if you've been admitted to a 2-year program, you can register with the Swedish tax agency and receive a personal identity number. And that number also gives access to Swedish state medical insurance, which I will talk about here. So a personal identity number is something you receive when you have been registered in the Swedish population registry. So if you've been admitted to a 2-year program, you go to the Swedish tax agency and apply to be entered into the Swedish population registry. If they approve the application, you are assigned a personal identity number, which consists of your date of birth and 4 random digits. And this number is used to identify yourself when you're in contact with any Swedish government authority. So like the university, it can be, any Swedish government authority, essentially. It can also be used when signing up for subscriptions, like joining a gym, when you're opening a bank account, those kinds of processes. It also gives access, as I mentioned, to Swedish state medical insurance. So when you go to the doctor, you just state the number, and you'll only pay a small patient fee, which is the same fee as any Swedish citizen would pay. So the number gives you access to healthcare on the same terms as any other Swedish person. Every year, we receive plenty of questions from students who want to register with a tax agency before they've started their studies. This is not possible. You have to be registered for courses in order to get the number, because you have to submit a certificate of registration, and that can only be obtained once you've registered and commenced your studies. Oh, sorry, arrival days. Well, the recommended arrival days for autumn 2021 is Thursday, 19th of August and Friday, 20th of August. And during these days, we will have an arrival desk at Arlanda Airport. So if you arrive, you just look for the desk and say, hi, I want to take the free shuttle service from the airport to the welcome center. And we'll put you on the shuttle and it'll take you to Uppsala, where you'll be able to take care of all the practicalities you need once arriving. So we highly recommend arriving during these days. It's not mandatory, you don't have to, but it's a service we provide. So if you're not sure of when you want to arrive, these days are definitely something to look for. Yes, and we recommend you to check our website regularly for any updates regarding the arrival days. So maybe if you have to sign up for the shuttle or something like that. But we'll send you updates via email as well. We usually send an arrival welcome information email in June. Yes, and then after you've arrived, we will have an orientation program. So the official start of autumn semester is 30th of August, but we will have activities for new students starting like the day after the arrival days, leading up until the start of semester. Many of the details haven't been confirmed yet. So again, I recommend you to check our website for the latest information, essentially. If you would like to learn some Swedish while you are in Sweden, which I'm sure many of you do, you can take basic Swedish courses during your studies. They usually start, like there's new courses starting every semester. You'll receive information about that, how to sign up later on, but they're free of charge, and they are offered like on late afternoons or evenings, so that you can take them in addition to your master's, so they don't interfere with your daily courses or classes. And then if you want to get a head start and maybe learn some words or phrases before coming to Sweden, you can check out learningswedish.se. It's a brief free online course that you can take. And there's of course also various language apps like Duolingo, where they have Swedish and you can learn some Swedish. It's always nice to know like hello and thank you before arriving. So. All right, well, you can also get a head start to your studies by following our current studies along in their daily lives. We have a blog where our current students post about their different topics. Maybe it's internships, maybe it's how to find a nation or choosing a nation. We also have an Instagram account where our current students post stories, pictures from their everyday lives. They do Q&As. Yeah, so I highly recommend you to follow us on social media. And speaking of current students, we have two with us today and then a former student as well. So we start out with Daniel. Daniel is a master's student in renewable electricity production. It's his first year. Daniel is from Colombia. He likes to hike and bike around the city. Favorite Swedish food, all the desserts. Hi, Daniel.
Hi, and congratulations to all new admitted to university. I am really excited because 1 year ago I was as you. So yes, here I am.
Thank you for joining today, Daniel. And then we move on to Mustaqim, who is a data science student, first year as well, from Bangladesh. Likes to hang out with his friends, hike and visit historical places. Luckily, Uppsala is a historic city. Favorite Swedish food, kanelbullar, which is cinnamon buns, and köttbullar, which is meatballs. Hi, Mustaqim.
Hi, everyone. Mustaqim here. I'm studying data science right now. And congratulations to all. Yeah, you must be really excited right now. So yeah, ask your questions.
And we, of course, have Arindam, who is a PhD student, but used to be a master's student, but is now also teaching courses at the universities or at the university. Arindam is from India, likes to watch and play cricket and football, and likes also desserts and fika. Hi, Arindam.
Hello all. Firstly, a big congratulations to all of you for the admit. And I hope to see at least some of you in Uppsala. And yeah, all the best.
All right. Well, now that we all know each other, let's do our Q&A session. So I can see that we've already received plenty of questions. And if we are unable to answer your question today, maybe we don't have time, maybe it's too specific, send it to us via email and we will answer it there instead. So let's just get started. I'll see here if there's anything that I think we should start with. Oh, here's one I haven't received before. I heard Sweden is a cashless society or country. So what do you recommend? Is it a good idea to set a TransferWise or Revolution account? Do I need proof of residence in Sweden to do so? Well, any thoughts about Sweden being a cashless society? Daniel, what has your experience been?
Okay, my experience is yes. You almost don't use like cash in your daily life. Every day you use like applications and your bank card to pay almost everything. Even if you have to pay and give money to other person, there is some apps that make life so much easier. So I would say like yes, it's so much easy. It's not recommended like bring a big amount of money because it's not so practical.
Yeah. And I must admit, I don't know what TransferWise or Revolution is.
No, I haven't used it, but I know some person who use TransferWise, and it worked well for them.
Mhm.
I
Okay,
think
good.
I have personally used TransferWise and it is quite good. The currency exchange rates are probably the best you can get.
Okay. Did you need to show proof of residence in order to use it?
No, but I needed a bank account where they can
Oh,
transfer. So TransferWise also have they have recently introduced, I think, their own cards, bank cards sort of. So I think
Hmm.
that could be a good option.
okay. All right. I can see that we have several students here who have been admitted to the Joint Nordic Master Program in Environmental Law, the NOMPEL, NOMPEL. There's a question here regarding residence permits, where it's, yeah, because there are semesters in Sweden, Norway, and Finland. And for these types of programs where you start in Uppsala, but you move to another university for your subsequent semesters, for these programs, you can apply for a Swedish residence permit for the entire program. And it's called like a mobility residence permit. So it'll be a 2-year permit, but it's noted on the residence permit that you are admitted to a program that is offered in several countries. So there's a little bit of a special process for that. But I do think your program coordinator will send you information about that. If not, just let us know and we can direct you to the right page at the Migration Agency's website. Several questions that I already answered during the presentation. So like how to get the personal identity number. Could we be offered both scholarships? I assume this is regarding the Uppsala University Scholarship and the Swedish Institute scholarships. You can be offered both, but you can only receive one. You have to choose if you're awarded both. Because both cover tuition fee, and you can't have your tuition fee paid twice. And there is no situation in where you use one scholarship to pay for the tuition fee and then take the money that would have covered the tuition fee to get pocket money. So no, you have to choose one. And I mean, the SI scholarship is more generous, so that's I think that's a done deal. If we are in a 2-year program, but waiting for the personal identity number, are we to use the FAS university insurance in case of any health issues? And yes, that's the plan, or that's the idea, that if you don't have the personal identity number, you're free to use the university insurance as a fee paying student. Yes. So several questions about personal identity number. Mustakim, can you maybe share a little bit about what the process was for you?
Yes, so for the personal identity number, so you have to, when you are here, you already have your T number with you. So with that T number, you can apply for your personal ID number. And then with this, whatever you are going to do here, you always need your personal number. So you have to first apply for your personal number, and then you will receive a letter. And then you have to book an appointment to get the card. And there
The
you
ID
will
card?
give your, yes. So there you will give your biometrics. And it will take near about 1 month. Sometimes it can be more than 1 month. So you just need to, if you feel like it's been more than 1 month, then you need to reach out to them and then ask them why it's taking a long time. Sometimes it takes, or sometimes they maybe forgot about your number. It happened. So yeah.
Yeah, so essentially what you do is you go to the Swedish tax agency and say that, hey, I'm going to be living in Sweden for more than 12 months. I can support myself and I have health insurance, or I have a Swedish residence permit. And then they say whether or not they accept that you enter into the population register. And then you receive the personal identity number and you can apply for the ID card. Yes.
And they can do it all like online.
Yes.
Skatteverket website, yes.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, of course. How many students are there usually in a class? Arindam, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah. So this totally depends on the course. I've seen classes having like courses having 5 students and also courses having 20, 30 students. So it totally varies between courses to courses. And certain courses are they have a mixture of students from different programs. So those courses will always have more students, while courses that are that is particular for only one program will always have less students, like 10, 5, 15.
Yes. Let's see here. Are there job opportunities for non-Swedish speaking students with the university or in Uppsala in general? Daniel, do you want to answer this one?
Well, yes, I would say that yes, there are opportunities for most of the cases when you apply for your resident permits, you are allowed to work, but university generally don't like that because maybe can interfere with your studies. But yes, you can do it. Probably if you don't know Swedish so well, it's not so easy, but you can find a part-time job. It depends of where you're looking at. Probably maybe if you, after you join in a nation, the chances are higher. So probably you can find it.
Yeah, we have students working in the nations, but it's important to note there that the pay you receive at the nation, it's very low. It's basically volunteer work and you receive some symbolic amount of money for it. It's not something that you can do in order to support yourself during your studies. You still have to have your finances somewhat secured before coming to Sweden. Yes. Are nations just for undergraduate students or for graduate students as well? They're for everyone, right? Mustaqim, have you any nation experience?
Yes, nations there for everyone. I mean, since your first semester, you can start joining nations. I mean, everyone will ask you like, do you know which nation is the best or where should I join or anything? I mean, basically, they're all pretty much same. Like if you join one nation, you can go to others nation as well. You can go to their pub or you can join their events. So it's basically same, but then also you will find, I mean, when you join, you will find a little bit differences, but then that's not that much. So it's basically same. So yes, it's for everyone. You can join.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, a nation, student nations is something that's pretty unique to Uppsala University. They have them in Lund as well, but of course we think ours are better. They are sort of like student clubs or societies, and they've been around since the 1700s. So they're super old. They used to be so that students from the same parts of the country could get together, even though like, because you weren't able to travel. So in like the 1700s, you couldn't just hop on a train and go to your hometown. No, to meet people from the same part of the country as yourself, you had to go join together in a nation. And that's sort of like the history, but now the nations are more like the students' second living room. So they have pubs, they have nightclubs, they have choirs, orchestras. Some of them provide scholarships. Yeah, a lot of like social activities. And if you join one, you can go to all of them. There's 13 of them. You pay by the semester. It's like 300 krona or something per semester. All of the nations have like international committees where they do activities specifically for the international students. So we always recommend our newly admitted students to join the nations when they arrive because it's super useful. Let's see here. I think, yeah. Are there many events for international students to get to know each other, like an international club? Well, a student nation would be ideal for that. So yes, there are many events like that. And of course, during orientation week as well, there are many social activities. Yes. How is the COVID situation? Arindam? How is the COVID situation?
Well, let's address the elephant in the room. That is probably the most common question we expected. The COVID situation right now, as we speak, there is a surge, but what like the university guidelines that because I am also an employee of the university right now. So I mean, there are no extra special guidelines. The only thing is you avoid this. I mean, you keep distance and you avoid meeting people whom you don't know. Wearing mask is not mandatory in Sweden, but I see compared to last year, more and more people are using masks. Take care of your personal hygiene. That's it, I guess. I mean, the advantage of Sweden over other countries would be the population density is much lower. Like I come from India, so I would know the difference. So hence the spread or the rate of spread is always lower than other countries in Sweden.
Yeah, and like I said, classes are online at the moment, and I can see that we receive a lot of questions about, like, do I have to come to Sweden if my classes are online? This is something you should check with your specific program or department, whether or not they have like any on-campus activities apart from classes. But in general, no. Like if you're supposed to study completely online from home, then you might as well, like, it doesn't matter if you do it in Sweden or in your home country, as long as you're able to follow the classes. Yes. I guess we have a question regarding Sweden being a cashless society. Are coins needed for public restrooms? No, right?
No, not at all. So there are card machines everywhere.
Right.
Near public restrooms.
You don't need like even coins for going to the machine to buy a soda. You can pay with your card.
Right. Yeah, it's been a while since I carried cash, I must say. And we changed our money a few years back. It was like 4 years ago or something. And I'm not entirely sure what the new coins look like.
Yeah, I was here like for my first 2-3 months. I had to use cash, so I had to go through all the hassles. So I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the transportation costs if we're guaranteed housing that is far away from campus? Yeah, Arindam, go ahead.
Yeah, the student, the monthly bus pass, if you are a student, will cost around 600 crowns per month. If you plan to commute daily using a public transport, then that would be the best option. But I would recommend, because Uppsala is not a very big city, so use a bike, which is a student's favorite mode of transport, and that would save you a lot of money, and also biking is fun.
A lot of time as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think bike is the #1 transportation for all our students. And it's possible to buy cheap bikes, second, like used bikes, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. That's a common question as well. Here we have a question for Daniel. What was the biggest challenge for you in terms of culture? And it says, greetings from Colombia.
Okay, from culture. Well, I must to say that the Latin American countries share a lot of traditions. This for me it wasn't like so different because like the food is quite similar. We have similar holidays too, so the impact it wasn't so bad. The thing that maybe it's a little bit hard to face, it's the changes in the weather. Because it's different. It's different. Like every season, it's completely different. But every season also has like very gorgeous last landscape. So it's quite nice. Probably one thing to have is like the interaction with people, with the local people. It's different. Sweden is a country where people respect like the personal space and boundaries, so they don't talk with the strangers. So at the beginning, that is a little bit different from our perspective because we are a little bit warmer, but it's just a matter of time to getting used to that. So it's not so difficult.
Yes, as Swedes, we love our personal space. The whole idea of like not hugging due to COVID, I think many Swedes have found this to be a great relief, not to have like interact too closely to other people. Let's see here. How much time does it usually take to open a Swedish bank account? And is a personal identity number always required? Do all of you have bank accounts? Yeah. Did it take a long time to get it?
Depends on the bank. Like if you go to Handelsbanken, then it takes less than a week to open a bank account. And but for me, I opened an account with Nordea, and the main issue was there like to get a like a date to have a meeting with their person who is gonna do my account work. So it was like nearly 2 weeks, and then once it was done, it took like only 1 week to get my everything done. So it was basically nearly a month to open my account, but then it differs sometime.
Also, you need your person number for that, and also it's a Swedish ID card at most banks before opening a bank account.
Yeah,
but there will be few, like a couple of banks who doesn't need personal number. They can open your account.
Yes, but it can be a pretty expensive process if you don't have the ID. It's always easier if you have the number in the card.
Yes, of course, yes.
So if you're choosing on whether to open the bank account first or get the personal identity number first, get the personal number first, because it'll facilitate the second process. Okay. So we have a question. I would like to know if the Masters in Digital Humanities is going to start online, because I can't find any information on the website. So no university-wide decision has been made during fall semester. So at this point, we still don't know. As far as I'm aware, no program has made any decision regarding fall semester. But we're likely to receive decisions during like the final months of spring. So we'll keep you updated, essentially. Yes, we got a question about student nations. I think I already explained a little bit about that. How long are residence permits usually granted for? 1 year. 1 year residence permit usually. And then after your first year, you extend the current permit. So it's a bit of a hassle that all of our students can't get 2-year permits. That would be great. We wish this would happen this will happen in the future, but at the moment it is what it is. So yeah, 1 year permits, and then you extend for year 2. Yeah, somebody had the same question there. Yes, 1 year permit. Do EU students have to pay any kind of fee? No, no fee at all. You just, no money changes hands. You just start your studies. There are no fees for EU citizens. When do you suggest to look for housing for EU students? I've checked many, but so far I could only find where to move in May or June. Have any of you searched for housing on your own, or do you live in the university provided housing? Arindam, you've searched for housing?
I'm probably a veteran for this question because I've changed my house like 4 or 5 times. So initially when I started as a master student, I used the university provided housing for 2 years. And then I have lived on a second-hand contract for a few months separately. So there is a website called Student Boet, where they list all these second-hand contracts if you want for short term. And after that, I have also a couple of my friends, we rented a house from Bostad. It was again a first-hand contract. So Bostad is a website where you can start a queue. You can start your queue, and probably it will take at least a year or 2 to get a house from there. And finally, the present house which I'm staying at right now is through Vidala Nation. So the nations also have a provision that they would provide housing based on how many housing points you have. And these points you will gather based on the number of semesters you are associated with the nation. So presently, I got my housing from Vidala Nation.
Yeah, so the housing system in Sweden is usually based on like a queue system. So you join the queue, and then every year you get points for how long you're in the queue. And then there's housing available. You say, I'm interested, and then the person with the most points get it. But there are, if you're newly admitted students, you have no way of like gathering time in the queue because you were only just admitted. So in those situations, there are, like Anna mentioned, secondhand contracts, or there are options where it's like you have to be a student, or different options.
But also one should be very careful that there are a lot of scams going around. So never pay anything in advance before you're sure that it is legit.
Yes, that's a very important thing to note. If you have been offered housing and you feel like it might be a scam, feel free to forward it to us or to contact Studentboet. Again, we'll do a webinar about housing in a week, I think, where we'll talk more about this. And like I said, we'll be joined by Sophia, who's an expert who knows everything about housing in Uppsala. So highly recommend all students planning on finding their own housing to join. Here's a question. I'm already in Sweden. I have a personal number. Do I need insurance? Well, if you have the number, then you're already covered by the state insurance. So no, generally no. Are there special webinars for students who will be staying in Gotland? Actually, we did one earlier today, about 2 hours ago, but we will send the recording to all admitted Gotland students. So don't worry, it'll be available on Friday. Arindam, regarding cell and molecular biology program, will you be teaching any of the courses?
Probably the first course, because I'm one of the lab teachers in that course. So probably the first course of cell and molecular biology and applied biotech.
Okay, so we have one of your future students here, Ivan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure because there are different branches of cell and molecular. Some of them might not be there, but there is a probability.
Okay, so we only have a few minutes left. We've been going on for almost an hour. Do we have to pay money to join a nation? Yes, you pay about 300 krona per semester. When we graduate from the master's program, for how long would we still have the Swedish state health insurance? Well, if you get a personal identity number because you live in Sweden, then there's no cutoff date. If you have the number and live in Sweden, then you're covered. The insurance provided by the university, that one you only have access to for as long as you're a fee-paying student. So as soon as you completed your studies, you're no longer covered by that insurance. But the state insurance that you receive with a personal identity number, that one is like as long as you live in Sweden. Let's see here. Let's do 2 more questions. And then we have to wrap things up. And I can see that we have a lot of unanswered questions. So I just, send them to us via email and follow us on Instagram. And maybe one of our students joining today will do a Q&A and you can ask your question again. Let's see here. We had one question about, is there any limit regarding the work hours for students? No, there's no limit. However, your students are expected to spend like about 40 hours a week on their studies. This includes classroom time or like online time right now, and independent studies. So 40 hours a week on your studies. And then in order to extend your residence permit for year 2, you have to have made sufficient progress in your studies. So there's no limit, but you need to handle your studies. Are there sports teams like football, volleyball in the university? Do any of you do sports?
Well, I can try and answer that. So the university doesn't have any sports team. They have, I think, an American football team, if I'm not wrong.
Well, actually, the university, there are teams for students, but the university doesn't have any teams.
There's no Uppsala University team.
Right.
But there are several clubs in Uppsala, especially for, I can tell you mostly about football. There are several clubs in Uppsala, which like small clubs, which do have proper football setup. So if people are willing, they can just join. There are also different Facebook groups where several internationals, they join forces and play football. Like I do that myself. That's why I'm aware of that. Yeah.
I know that there are some, as Aridan said, there is some groups, even from nations, and they gather together to make like a running nights or play volleyball outside. So sometimes you can find that kind of outdoor activities.
All right. We'll finish with one final question. How likely is your bike to get stolen? Any thoughts?
I'm going to start. There is like it doesn't happen to me yet, but it's quite common. It's like a legend that if you're a Uppsala student, Uppsala University student, your bike will be lost at least once. So the best advice is buy very good luck
Yeah.
to secure the bicycle, because you can see a lot of bikes all around the city all the time. So yes, it's a very good idea having a big lock and secure.
Yes. I had my bike stolen once, many years ago. It wasn't fun, but I learned my lesson, and I always have 2 locks now. So that's the best way of avoiding it, I guess.
Well, I had the brakes of my bike stolen instead of the whole
Oh.
bike.
Oh, wow.
They just stole the brakes.
A little more dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so yes, it can happen, but there are ways to try to avoid it. I think that has to be our final question. Thank you so much for joining.
At the end, but I don't think that people think that Uppsala is an insecure city. It's actually the opposite. It's really, really secure all the time. You can feel free to going outside, and of course be cautious, because you don't know what is going to happen. But usually you don't know that people get usually robbed or something. So the bicycles is a completely different thing.
Yes, very good point. Uppsala is a safe city. There are bike thefts, of course, but it's a safe city. Yes. Okay, we have to wrap things up for today. Thank you so much to everyone who joined. There are so many questions that we didn't have time to answer. So yeah, send them to us and we'll do our best to answer them via email. Maybe I'll have to forward them to one of these participating students. Yes, if you're unsure of any of the information covered here today, revisit the practical information PDF that we sent you, because I think a lot of question marks can be straightened out by just reading through it. So that's my recommendation. All right, well, thank you so much for joining again, and I truly hope that we will be able to meet on campus this fall. And in the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and yeah, hope to see you in the fall. Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.